Tom Grundon, Staff Liaison to the Paradise Path Task Force, and I'd like to introduce Margaret Littlejohn, our august chair, to make quarterly report number 3.
Thank you, Tom, and Mayor Lambert and City Council. I'm happy to be here to share our accomplishments for the last 3 months.
I'll get it for you, Margaret, so you can talk.
Okay.
You don't have to think here.
Okay.
And you can just...
So we had our last quarterly report in March, and so I'm here to talk about the last 3 months of activities of our group. We had 3 meetings during that time, and we had a quorum present at all 3 meetings. We got your approval on our revised mission statement, which you can see there. We promote and advise on the development of a path system in and around Moscow, embracing 3 important community concerns: active transportation, recreation, and resource conservation and enhancement. So for the past 3 months, we've had a number of activities that we've been involved in. We are continuing to support the city as it continues to stripe Paradise Path along the edges so that it allows better nighttime travel. And the goal to complete this is this summer. Part of it was done last fall or last late summer. We joined the Idaho Walk Bike Alliance, a statewide group promoting active transportation, and obviously they have similar goals to what we do, and we felt it would be a good alliance to have. We had several task force members attend the Laytok Trail Foundation fundraiser dinner on May 3rd, and again, we have similar goals, so their pathway system, of course, extends outside the city, but Paradise Path is trying to make those connections work better. We have 3 city booths planned for the farmers market on June 14th, coming right up, July 19th and September 20th, and we hope to make the public more aware of what we are doing, as well as recruit new members. And we also participated in Safe Routes to School events this spring. We have a lot of goals for the next year or so, and I think you got a list of those in your agenda. We want to improve the Highway 95 and Troy Highway connection, that shortcut that people use from the crosswalk there to the trail, so that they don't have to cut between 2 trails. We also are working on fundraising for Blackbird Crossing, which you gave us permission to help with advertising that fundraising. We are working on scheduling the improvement of the butterfly garden at Berman Creekside Park in collaboration with the Parks and Rec Commission. We hope to host 1 or more Paradise Path work days for members of the public and our group. And we're collaborating on Safe Routes to School program with the Transportation Commission to build support for a pedestrian bridge, and that should say 3rd Street, not 6th Street. A pedestrian-only bridge over 3rd Street. We're continuing to support the development of the White Avenue Highway underpass, which you see a photograph of there in the lower corner. And I understand that that just came off the city agenda for a hydrologic study for FY15. So that's kind of disappointing to us. We are also supporting Mountain View road improvements for pedestrians and cyclists, especially the traffic circle, the potential for a traffic circle at 6th Street and Mountain View. And we're developing wayfinding signs for Paradise Path, and those are actually in the works. The "You Are Here" signs scheduled for several places along Paradise Path to help people figure out where they are and how to get where they want to go. We are hoping to add additional orphan path linkages, and Tom Grendon and Kevin Lilly just looked at these orphan path sections that we had proposed, and we're going to move forward on improving those, at least by signing them and other improvements that Kevin approves. We are promoting path tour rides for membership and interesting parties, and that's just to familiarize more people with the pathway system. We're, as I mentioned, going to plan to do several farmers market booths for the city to, again, promote and market Paradise Path. We're developing a Facebook page and other social media for the task force to, again, make more people familiar with what Paradise Path is all about. Whoops, I lost that last one there, but it just said that we were going to try to recruit new members. Any questions?
Thank you. Walter? Margaret,
Yes.
I want to congratulate you and the Paradise Path Task Force on the progress you've made. It's probably because I'm no longer liaison, but that's okay, whatever it takes. Two questions for you.
Sure.
You talked about improving the Highway 95 and Troy Highway shortcut section. Is that at Steiner?
No, it's...
Where is that?
It's right on the corner of Highway 95 and where the Southside Mini Mart used to be.
Okay.
That crosswalk that goes across the Troy Highway to Highway 95. Once people cross, there's no connection there to get to the pathway, which is just
Okay.
maybe 12 feet or so from that corner.
Okay,
And
yeah.
that's what that is talking about.
Okay, yeah, thank you, I understand. And another one, if I may. You also made a comment about hydrologic study or survey or something regarding the White Avenue underpass. I didn't understand.
Well, my understanding is that that was taken off the city budget for FY15 to and actually Mike Lowry is going to address more of this in the next presentation.
Okay.
But if I'm wrong about that, I apologize, but I thought that's what was happening, that study was scheduled for FY15 and is now not on that agenda.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Margaret. Next, we have Professor Mike Lowry from University of Idaho to make a presentation on the proposed Highway 8 underpass project. Mike?
Yeah, it's good to be here. In Moscow on the Move, they keep calling it undercross, so I wasn't sure what word to use. But it's the underpass of Highway 8 that many of you have heard of, and I'll take a few minutes to discuss it. So to get your bearings, the Paradise Path is here in green, and I think this is a pointer. So we've got Highway 8, which, by the way, has about 12,000 cars per day. And one of the challenges and frequent concerns that we hear from the citizens at the Paradise Path Task Force is getting across that highway to get to the path. There's residential areas that are in that vicinity that would like to get to the university or elsewhere, and getting across that highway is really difficult. So although there's such a fantastic path, not a great way to get to it. And it's not just that. There's also the school. We've also heard concerns from parents who are trying to get to the charter school and the other high school that are up there on Highway 95. Also in that area is more residential space that maybe wants to go the other direction across the highway, and apartment complex that want to get to the fairgrounds, want to get to the commercial area of Eastside Marketplace, Safeway, and the movie theater and other locations that are there. So the question is how do you get across that? There's a signal at the couplet. There's a signal at Blaine. and ITD has said that they will not put any more signals between those signals, the Idaho Transportation Department. They said that maybe in the future there might be a signal that goes in at Mountain View, but there will certainly probably never be a signal between there. So that space is about a mile, a little over a mile of an area that is very difficult to cross to get to the pathway. So what we have proposed, and this actually has been something that's discussed for many years, and the Paradise Path Task Force is just taking the role of trying to push the conversation forward, is an underpass at this location here. An underpass, undercrossing. Again, it's in Moscow on the Move, and they're using the word undercrossing. I don't know, maybe that's what you do when you're from Portland, because that company's from Portland. But to get the idea of where this is the Troy Highway, the Highway 8, looking toward Troy. There's the Tesoro gas station, and the path is here on the side. Well, there's a creek that goes underneath. This is Paradise Creek. And so I went out there today just to get a sense of, again, what's happening, and I saw a few people trying to cross. Here was this woman actually had 2 children there, a dog, and a child on her back, and was struggling with this intersection. Now, you might wonder, why would someone want to cross there when there's not even crosswalks? But I have a 5-year-old and a 3-year-old, and I know when you need to get home, you're not going to walk a half mile that way and then a half mile back to get to wherever you're going. And here's an older woman with a cane trying to cross. Here's a family trying to cross. This was just today out there. So here's some shots of the creek looking north. Again, this one was taken in the winter. Here's the pathway, and the idea is that the path would branch off, go underneath, and then come out. This is now from the other side. Oh, no, this is actually still looking north. And then this is now looking from the other side and come up and then go along White Avenue toward the fairgrounds and Safeway. I'm a civil engineering professor at the university, so I had a group of students take a look at this, and they designed it, and this is one of the designs that they did. They designed it in a CAD drawing software, and they designed all of as structural engineers, they were designing all the requirements. Here's another example of what it might look like in another community, an underpass underneath a bridge. One of the reasons why we would also want to do it in this location, I don't know if you've ever seen this map before, this is the snow routes for the city of Moscow, and it is on the crossroads of some snow routes there. And the project is more than just the underpass. Here is somebody walking toward where the underpass would be in this section here, and there's not a sidewalk currently along White Avenue. The city owns quite a large right-of-way. I understand that there was a thought that at one point it was going to be an arterial. I don't believe that's still in the plan, but because of that, it has a rather large right-of-way, and so the proposal is also not only to do the underpass, but then to continue the pathway along White Avenue until the fairgrounds and Safeway. The entrance is there. And then the other part of the proposal is that this is now looking at Lynn Street, and to have a bridge that would cut across up a bike and pedestrian-only bridge that would cut across to Lynn Street. Here's now looking from Lynn Street toward the Tesoro gas station, and that would come down there. And it would be a bridge something like this, which was the new bridge that was installed, a prefabricated bridge that would be dropped in. So in all, the project is an undercrossing on Highway 8, a path to the fairgrounds, and a pedestrian bridge to Lynn Street. And I'm just going to make a few more comments on why we feel this is an important project. You may be familiar with another section of trail, which is called Heron's Hideout, and then goes around where the new baseball fields are, which is another good reason to want to connect this. And then there's also a path that goes out to Mountain View by Good Samaritan. And our proposal then would connect that with White Avenue and the fairgrounds. And there's also something in the long-range plan of connecting up what they call the Damon Street connection and connecting up to Mountain View. Now, Paradise Path Task Force has a great vision to then maybe connect up, and they've been in conversation with PCI about coming down through here in a long radio. This is also in the Moscow on the Move plan that a path would come along Farm Road. And so all in all, this is what we would call a Paradise Loop. And it would be a pedestrian and bicycle shared use pathway that encompasses the community. Even if those other things aren't to happen, there's a lot that can be accomplished by this connection. Even if we never do the Damon Street, just coming down on the on-street bike lanes would allow the whole east side of the community better access to the pathway. I also had another group of civil engineering students, as their senior design project, go out and survey it. So they crawled down in there and they got their surveying equipment and they measured out and made an elevation schematic profile and determined that there would be 95 cubic yards of excavation required. There's a few restrictions that, when freed up, would stop a lot of the stopped flow of the stream right now. They made some CAD drawings of how it would look coming in and out. They also did a flood analysis, and this they happened to do it in the year that, if you recall, in 2010 there was some flooding. This is at a flow rate of 265 cubic feet per second, and one of the things we'd want to know is how often would this underpass be flooded. And so they looked at the drainage that leads into this part here, and in fact it would be flooded probably every year. This is the last since 1979. This is the max flow rate that has occurred every year, and the flooding that my students calculated, which again, these are students, so they Wayne, I know you want me to be sure that students aren't perfect with their calculations, but they did some studies. They did a good effort, and they showed 160 cubic feet is where there would be some flooding. And so that would mean that one event per year, and that flooding would probably last about 3 days, and is what their calculation was. So I think one of the things that has been discussed and under consideration is getting professionals to do a hydrological analysis, which certainly would be needed. But this is some preliminary work that was done by some students at the University of Idaho. But even if it does flood, let's say it floods for a week, a year, or even 2 weeks, I'm pretty certain that if you talk to those who would be interested in crossing at that location, they wouldn't mind 2 years not being able to cross there for what it would do for the rest of the year. My students also met with the Idaho Transportation Department to get drawings. One of the things they discovered is that one of the drainage pipes would need to be rerouted. ITD was pretty excited about this project because, again, as I say, they have no interest in putting a traffic signal there, and so any alternative to that would be preferred. So there was a lot of public input on this during the Moscow on the Move, and it came out as the top-ranked project for a crossing. And they estimated, so this was Nelson Nygaard's estimate, of $340,000 for the undercrossing. As far as that public involvement, if many of you are aware, they were here in a few town hall meetings. They had different projects, and they had citizens rate the projects that they thought were the most important. And this one came out on top. So I'm near the end here. I just want to make a few more points of why I think this is an important project. 3 things: the potential to save lives and prevent injuries, facilitate economic activity, and increase the attractiveness of Moscow. So right now, the Idaho Transportation Department is associating $6 million toward a fatality, and $300,000 for a serious injury, $84,000 and $55,000 for a possible injury. These are the current dollar values that are used when doing benefit cost analysis for an ITD project. So if you were to try and take a guess of, some sort of prediction of what's the probability of a fatality in, let's say, a 10-year period in that area. And Nelson Nygaard noted, by the way, that this is showing different speeds, and when you go, a pedestrian is hit at these different speeds, the probability of death, and at 30 miles per hour, it's about 40% probability that the pedestrian will die. So even in a low conservative estimate, if we say there's a 10% chance of a fatality over the next 10 years, then that economic cost would be about $605,000. So that, just on preventing a fatality, that might be a threshold to look at benefit costs. But there's, even injury, or not to mention the benefits of the movement and travel that will happen here. So facilitate economic activity. Just show this slide again. There's a barrier with this highway, and the commercial and residential interaction would be greatly improved by having that underpass. And then as I was making this presentation today, this last one that I thought of, increase attractiveness of Moscow. Well, I happened to go to the webpage, and I saw, this is a community that promotes walking and biking. We have our art walk, we have our prize ride, and I've done the prize ride, and it sure would be nice to be able to have an underpass there for that event and other events that happen. And as I was looking at the webpage, I saw this on the side. And I thought, we know it. This isn't new to us. This is something the city has recognized, that bicycling makes Moscow a special place. And I think that someone who moved here 5 years ago, it is something to be proud of, our bike paths, although it's not, it's little pieces and they're disconnected. I think if we want to really have something to be proud of, we're going to want something like this for our community, a full loop. And so thank you for the chance to share these thoughts, and if you have any questions.
Thank you, Professor Lowry. Council, questions for the professor?
What
Walter?
was your construction cost again?
Nelson Nygaard, the consulting firm, estimated at $350,000.
Thank you.
Did you have something, Tom? You wanted to...
I've said it before. I think this would be a terrific addition to the transportation system in Moscow. I have attended some neighborhood meetings. I can't remember what year it was, but it was several years ago within that neighborhood in the Pine Cone, Indian Hills area, and there were a lot of people that expressed the feeling of disconnection of being able to get across the street to the Eastside Marketplace or in the other direction towards the University of Idaho. And I think that being able to make some pedestrian-friendly crossings like this would help us, and I think this is a good example. And I agree with the sentiment that having it out of commission for a few days or a week or so per year due to high water is worth the trouble.
Wayne?
Thanks for the presentation, Mike. Very well done. Appreciate everything that you do, not only for this, but also for Smart Transit.
You bet.
Your $340,000 estimate that they put out for the undercross, how much sidewalk was included in that? Probably not much sidewalk.
Yeah, so there's three parts to the project that we think are all important and equally important. That's the underpass, the pathway out to the fairgrounds and Safeway, and then the bridge to Lynn Street. That estimate of $350,000 only includes the underpass.
Okay. Any estimate on the rest of it?
I don't have that. I think the best place to turn to an estimate on that would be previous trail construction that's happened here in Moscow, like Heron's Hideout. I don't know if someone would know, you could find a linear foot estimate.
That's fine. Thank you.
Thank you very much for your presentation, Professor Lowry. Tom, you got additional things you want to add?
No, just thank you for letting us make the presentation, and on behalf of the Paradise Path Task Force, I thank you.
Thank you, Tom.